So this week we've been working on three-dimensional shapes, or we often say 3D. So what does it even mean that something has three dimensions? So I have a cube here that we will look at, and I'll explain it to you. 3 dimensions mean that you can measure width, height, and depth. So there's 3 different directions I can measure right here. This direction, up and down. So I'm measuring back to forth. I can measure how tall it is, and I can measure the width here in the front. So width, height, depth, you're able to measure. It's not flat either. That's another thing. When we studied our plane shapes are flat. Those polygons, those are flat. A square is flat. This is a cube. So think about what I mean. 3D shapes, my students always like to say puffy. That's not our mathematical word, but yes, they're puffy, or they have dimension of depth. They're not just width and height, they also have depth to them. So let's start with this first shape here. This is our cube. So we want to talk about the parts of a three-dimensional shape. Now, we called this a side when it was a flat shape, but you're going to notice we're combining this square side and this square side together. Where those come together, we don't call that a side. We call this an edge. So tell me what this is again. This is an edge. Now, again, you'll notice these points. So these points right here, we still come together. That's a vertex where it comes together. And then this flat portion here is called a face. So we have a face, we have the edge right here, and we have our vertex. Let's go ahead and count what we can on this cube. Let's count our faces. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Now there's one on the bottom. 5. Look back here. 6. So I had 1, 2, 3, 4 going around. 5, 6. So there are 6 faces. Now, how many edges are there? Oh, I notice a lot. Let's see, because there's 1 here, 2, 3, 4. That's only on this part. Well, that means on this part there's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 8. Now, wait a minute. We've got to get this one 9, and this one 10, 11, 12. There's 12 edges on a cube. How many of these vertices do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4. On the bottom, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8. The other thing I want you to notice about a cube is that it has faces. So the face is a flat portion, and we can actually trace the face. Now let's see, what shape is it going to be? This one's pretty easy to tell that when we trace it, we are going to have a square. So I draw all the way around it, and I've got that square shape when I trace it. Let's look at another one of our three-dimensional shapes. This one is a cylinder. So a cylinder is rounded, and we have things at home that you might notice that look like a block, which is a cube. We have things that look like a cylinder, especially go to your pantry, canned foods. So we've got those cylinders. Now look at what the cylinder can do that the cube cannot. It can roll. Look at that cube. It doesn't roll unless we are making it roll, like when you throw a dice, but it cannot just sit there and continue to roll. So the reason this one rolls is because it is rounded. So look at this one. We don't see any of these vertices, do we? Do you see any points anywhere? It has 2 faces right here, but it also doesn't have those straight edges. Now we can trace a face, but we're noticing again, we don't have the vertices or those edges. So if we want to see what the face of the cylinder is, the face is round. It's a circle. So this is a circle because it's flat. This is a three-dimensional shape called a cylinder. Another one you've been studying this week is a cone. And cones are easy to remember because people think of an ice cream cone. Look at this one, though. So again, it's able to roll. Well, what do you notice? One of its shapes is a circle. So when they have a circular face, you're going to have a three-dimensional shape that's able to roll. So if we trace this one, we would also get a circle. Now, we don't see those edges on that one either. And right here, we do have a point, and there's a lot of different thoughts on this in mathematics. There are some places where they say this is a vertex and some that don't want to say that it is. So you will see some disagreements on whether that is a vertex or not. So think about how many faces a cone has. We've only got one face. We have the one circular face. And like I said, I've read quite a bit on different mathematical thoughts about the vertex. And a lot of people say, no, it does not have one because you don't have those edges coming together. But there are others saying that what creates this three-dimensional shape before it is rolled up would mean that there is a vertex. Let's look at our next shape. So this one's a pyramid, and I think a pyramid is really cool. What I think is interesting about it is the faces. So the face on the bottom is what shape? It's a square. I could trace it, and it would be a little bit bigger than that one, but I can go about and trace this. And so there is one face on the bottom that is a square, and this won't come out perfect because I had it moving a little bit. But then if I trace the side of my pyramid, you already know what shape I'm going to get. What shape is it? Because we studied those last week. I'm going to get a triangular shape right there. So a pyramid has 1, 2, 3, 4 triangular shapes. You can see them above right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and one square shape. How many edges does it have? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4 right there. 5, 6, 7, 8, and one vertex here. 1, 2, 3, 4 there. So 5 vertices total. So that is our pyramid shape. And then we have our sphere. And a lot of people like to say a ball. It does roll around like a ball. It is round. We have no edges, no vertex, no faces. You can't lay it flat to trace it because it's going to move. So the sphere, remember this is not SP, not sphere. Think about how it is spelled. The sphere, that PH makes the F sound. A sphere is shaped like a ball. Now, what I want you to do for your journal entries now is to find 2 3D shapes in your home of objects. So I've got my journal here, just like you're going to get, and I've got my first object. So my first object is one die. So these are dice when we have more than one, and this is one. When we just have one, we call it a die. So what I'm going to do is trace a face of my die, and I might even draw some of the dots so that it represents what I have. Now, I'm going to count my faces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm going to discuss what I have on my object that I found. I have 6 faces. Now I'm going to count the edges, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the top part. Let me do the bottom. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 edges. And my vertices, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 vertices. And so I know that this shape is called a cube. So I'm also going to label the name right above my description. This is a cube. And then I'm going to do one more. So I've got my favorite drink here, my Diet Dr. Pepper. This is a cylinder shape. It's rounded here, but I've got a circle face on the top and bottom. I am going to draw the face and trace it right here. And like I said, it's not perfect, and that's okay, because it is hard to trace this. So there's my Dr. Pepper. You can label whatever you find. Now, I don't have, I have two faces. They're circular faces on my Dr. Pepper can. I have 0 edges and 0 vertices. And then I'm going to tell you what the name of this shape is. This is a cylinder. You are going to do the same thing. Choose 2 objects in your house that are 3-dimensional shapes. Record the information about them and submit it to me.